The alien station Carveth never truly slept. Its walls breathed with soft light, and its halls whispered in 100 languages that did not belong to humans. To Daniel Reyes, that night felt heavier than all the others. His body ached, his eyes burned, his mind felt slow, like it was sinking underwater. Daniel was human. That alone made every day harder. Humans were new to the Galactic Alliance, fragile, short-lived, and strange. Other species respected human persistence, but respect did not mean comfort. Daniel worked as a junior cultural translator, helping aliens understand human behavior. Ironically, no one had prepared him for understanding them. After 14 long hours of work, Daniel walked alone through a quiet corridor. The floor symbols glowed faint blue, shifting shape as he passed. He rubbed his face and tried to focus. His room was supposed to be 3 doors down on the left. He counted silently, 1, 2, 3. He stopped, exhaled, and opened the door. Warm air touched his skin. That was wrong. His assigned quarters were cold and plain. This room felt alive, walls glowing softly, like they were responding to a heartbeat. The scent was unfamiliar, calm, almost soothing. Then he saw her. She stood near the wide viewing window, staring at the stars. She was tall and still, her body wrapped in dark ceremonial fabric. Her skin was a muted blue-gray, marked with thin silver lines that shimmered faintly. When she turned, her eyes reflected the galaxy like mirrors. Daniel's heart dropped. This was not his room. This was not even a human room. I'm sorry, he said quickly, his voice tight. Wrong room. I didn't mean. He stepped back, ready to leave, expecting an alarm or a sharp command. None came. The alien woman studied him in silence, not with anger, not with fear, with something else, curiosity. You are exhausted, she said at last. Her voice was calm, deep, and strangely gentle. Daniel blinked. Yes, I am. You entered without awareness, she continued. That usually means one of 2 things: carelessness or overload. Daniel swallowed. The second one? She watched him closely. This species, he recognized her markings, warrior caste, feared across multiple systems. Humans were warned to avoid private Valori spaces at all costs. I can leave immediately, Daniel said again, forcing his feet to move. Yes, she replied. You may leave. But she did not step aside. She did not raise her voice. She did not summon security. Daniel hesitated, just for a second. That second changed everything. You are afraid, she observed. Daniel gave a small, tired smile. Only a little. She tilted her head, the silver lines on her skin glowing softly. Fear does not shame you. It means you still listen to yourself. No alien had ever said something like that to him. My name is Daniel, he said before he could stop himself. There was another pause. Then she answered, I am sorry. The name carried weight. Daniel felt it, even if he did not understand why. You may sit, Laurie said, gesturing toward a low structure formed from smooth crystal. 5 minutes. Then you go. Daniel nodded and sat carefully, his muscles trembling now that he had stopped moving. He hadn't realized how tired he truly was until that moment. They did not speak right away. The stars drifted outside the window, slow and endless. Daniel felt small, not in a bad way, just honest. What do humans see when they look at space? Salary asked quietly. Daniel thought for a moment. Hope, he said, and fear. At the same time, Sailory considered this. 5 minutes have passed, she said. Eventually, Daniel looked up. She was still there. She had not asked him to leave, and for the first time since arriving on Carveth, Daniel felt something unexpected settle in his chest. Not safety, not comfort, but the feeling of being allowed to exist. That night, a single wrong door remained open. Daniel knew he should stand up. He knew he should thank her, bow politely, and leave before the situation turned dangerous. Every training lesson in his mind was shouting the same warning. Do not remain in a Vetlari private chamber. Yet his body did not move. The crystal seat beneath him was warm, adjusting to his shape as if it understood tired bones. His shoulders finally relaxed, and that scared him more than the alien warrior standing across the room. Solari noticed. You are still here, she said, not as a question. Yes, Daniel replied quietly. I'm sorry if that's a problem. It is not, she said after a short pause. It is unusual. She moved closer, her steps silent. Daniel's heart beat faster, but he forced himself not to pull away. Running would insult her. Staying might end him. Humans were very bad at choosing safe options. You did not look at me with hunger, Solari said, nor with fear disguised as pride. Daniel frowned. What did I look at you with? She searched his face carefully, with relief that surprised him. He laughed softly, a tired sound. I didn't know aliens could see that. We see more than humans believe, she answered, especially when they are honest. Daniel rubbed his hands together, suddenly aware of how small and fragile they looked compared to hers. If you want me to leave now, I will, Sailory, turned toward the window again. The stars painted her outline in silver light. I spend my nights alone, she said. Velari do not seek company without purpose. Daniel listened. He had learned that silence was often more important than words among non-human species. Tonight, she continued, you arrived without purpose, and yet I did not feel disturbed. She faced him again. Tell me, human Daniel, why do you look so tired? He hesitated. No one had asked him that honestly in a long time. I tried to be strong, he said slowly. All the time. Humans do that when we're scared. We joke, we work harder, we pretend we're fine. Solari's eyes softened just a little, but tonight, Daniel went on. I forgot to pretend. That seemed to matter. Sailory sat across from him, lowering herself with careful grace. For a warrior species, she moved like someone trained to control power rather than display it. In my culture, she said, weakness is corrected through pain. Daniel winced. Yeah, that sounds familiar in a different way. She tilted her head. Explain. When humans show weakness, Daniel said, we're told to man up, to hide it. To be quiet, Sailory considered this. So both our species punish the same truth. Daniel nodded. Seems like it. The room grew quieter. Not uncomfortable heavy, thoughtful. Without warning, Solari stood and walked to a wall panel. The light dimmed further, shifting into a soft, night-like glow. You may remain until rest cycle ends, she said. I will not ask again. Daniel looked up, surprised. Are you sure? Yes. Why? She met his eyes. Because you did not take advantage of my silence. Daniel felt his throat tighten. Thank you, That single word carried more weight than she expected. Sailari paused, as if struck by it. They did not speak much after that. Daniel lay down on the floor near the window, careful to keep distance. The surface adjusted, becoming slightly softer. He stared at the stars, feeling their quiet pull, for the first time in weeks. His thoughts slowed. Sailari remained awake, watching the reflection of space in the glass. She listened to Daniel's breathing, change from shallow and guarded to deep and human. Something inside her shifted. Valari were taught that closeness created weakness. Attachment led to loss. Loss led to rage. Yet watching this fragile being sleep on her floor, trusting without demanding anything, she felt no rage, only responsibility. A faint chime echoed through the chamber. Security scan initiated. Sailari's posture stiffened instantly. Her eyes sharpened. The station had noticed. Daniel stirred, half awake. "Is something wrong?" "Yes," she said calmly, "but you will remain where you are." Footsteps echoed outside the door measured. Mechanical, final. Sailari placed herself between Daniel and the entrance, her body straight, her presence commanding, for the first time that night. Daniel felt true fear, and for the first time in her long life. Sailari prepared to defend someone who was not her own, because the human had entered the wrong room, and chosen to stay without asking for anything at all. Daniel's eyes snapped open as the soft hum of the chamber was broken by a low, mechanical pulse, the station's security system. The pulse was a warning, the kind no human ever wanted to hear. An unregistered human in a Valari private chamber. The words echoed in his mind like a hammer against fragile glass. Panic surged through him, cold and sharp. "Stay calm," Sailari said quietly, standing now with her spine straight, every movement precise and dangerous. Daniel swallowed hard, trying to mimic her composure. But the thought of Valari guardstall, armored, merciless, flooded his imagination. They didn't negotiate. They didn't explain. They acted. The door hissed open. 2 Valari guards stepped inside, their boots clicking like distant thunder. Their silver-lined armor reflected the soft glow of the chamber, and their eyes black, unyielding focused on Daniel as if he were already judged. He felt every instinct screaming, run, hide, apologize. But before he could speak, Sailari's voice rang out, clear and commanding. "He is my guest," she said. The words were simple, but every syllable carried weight. Daniel's pulse jumped. The guards halted, not moving forward. In their society, no Valari had ever defended an outsider before. "He is not registered," one of the guards said. The voice like grinding metal. Sailari stepped slightly forward, the silver lines on her arms glinting. "Then register him," she replied without hesitation. "I take full responsibility for his presence." Daniel's jaw dropped. Register him. Risk her authority. No Valari ever placed themselves at that level for a human or anyone outside their hierarchy. But she did, without fear, without questioning it. The lead guard's eyes narrowed. "You understand the rules, Sailari. Protecting an outsider, especially a human, could mean demotion or exile." "I understand," she said simply. Her tone had no room for argument, no flicker of doubt. "I accept the risk. His presence here is my choice, not his mistake." Daniel felt heat rise to his cheeks. He wanted to say something, anything, but his voice froze. All he could do was watch as the Velari guards exchanged silent glances. No one spoke. The power of her calm, the authority in her declaration, filled the room like thick air. "You may go," she added to Daniel in a softer voice, almost like a whisper meant only for him. "Do not move unless I command it." He nodded immediately, swallowing back the lump in his throat. His chest ached with gratitude, fear, and awe all at once. Here was a warrior, a legend, risking her life for a human who had only entered by accident. Daniel realized that for the first time, he understood the depth of courage in this galaxy. It was not in power or weapons, but in the choice to protect someone smaller, weaker, or different. The guards hesitated, then slowly backed out, leaving the room. The door hissed closed behind them. Silence fell again, thick and heavy. Daniel exhaled, relief mixing with guilt. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I didn't mean to." Sailari held up a hand, stopping him. "Do not apologize. You did nothing wrong. You came here unaware, as anyone might. I chose to keep you." Daniel swallowed hard. He could not measure the magnitude of her words. A human, so small in this vast galaxy, had been protected not out of duty, not out of law, but out of personal choice. That simple act, that one decision, resonated deeper than any lecture or lesson he had ever learned. For the first time since arriving on Carveth, Daniel felt a strange mixture of fear and hope. Fear of the galaxy's dangers, yes, but hope that humans, as in small, fragile humans, could be recognized, respected, and even cherished. Sailari turned back toward the window, watching the stars drift silently past. "You must rest," she said, softer now. "The night is long. We face the consequences of our choices by dawn." Daniel sank back onto the floor, his body trembling with exhaustion and adrenaline. For the first time that night, he allowed himself to feel safe, though he knew the danger had not vanished. It lingered like a shadow behind the soft light of the room, a reminder that the galaxy was vast, cold, and unyielding. But for now, in this small chamber, a Velari warrior had chosen to shield a human. That simple, brave choice warmed him more than any bed could. He watched her in silence, the stars reflecting in her eyes, and realized that some acts of courage were not loud, not violent, but quiet and seen by the galaxy, yet powerful enough to change everything. And Daniel Reyes, human, fragile, exhausted, understood that he was witnessing something extraordinary, a warrior choosing compassion over rule, choice over fear. For a human, that night would never be forgotten. The chamber was quiet now, save for the soft hum of the station and the distant twinkling of stars outside the wide viewing window. Daniel lay on the polished floor, the crystalline surface adapting gently to his shape. For a human, it was far from luxurious, but it was safe, warm, and more comforting than any bed he had slept in for weeks. He kept his eyes on the ceiling, pretending to rest. But he couldn't stop thinking about Sailari. She sat near the window, still and silent, watching the galaxy drift by. Her posture was perfect, a living statue of discipline, yet there was a strange softness in her gaze. Daniel realized he had been trained to fear warriors like her. He had imagined cold judgment, punishment, or even anger, but none of that existed here. Instead, there was something unexpected. Acceptance. "You are awake," she said softly, not turning to face him. Her voice was calm, melodic, almost like the gentle ripple of water against rocks. "I am," Daniel whispered. "It's hard to sleep after. Everything, after what? She asked, her voice gentle but curious. She finally turned, and the light of the stars painted silver across her skin. After nearly being arrested for a mistake I didn't even know I made, Daniel admitted, his voice low. I thought you would send me away, or worse. She studied him carefully, her eyes reflecting something deeper than he had ever seen in another being. I could have, she said slowly. I could have. But I did not. Why do you think that is? Daniel paused. He wanted to give an answer that sounded clever, that sounded brave, but nothing came. Finally, he shrugged. I don't know, maybe. You saw that I wasn't trying to take advantage. Or maybe you just chose not to. Solari smiled faintly, a rare gesture for her kind. Perhaps both. Perhaps neither. What matters is that you stayed without demanding. You did not expect anything from me. That is unusual. Daniel's chest tightened. He had never thought of such a small act staying quietly, not asking for anything as extraordinary. But in this room, with this being, it mattered more than anything he had ever done. Humans, she continued, fear weakness. Yet you display it openly, that is. Curious. Daniel laughed softly, a short, tired sound. We do. Most of the time we hide it, but tonight, I couldn't. I just forgot. I'm exhausted. And I guess I forgot to pretend I'm invincible. Solari tilted her head, the silver lines along her skin faintly glowing. You are honest in a way my people rarely see. Honesty, it carries weight. It demands recognition. The stars drifted past, silent witnesses to their quiet conversation. Daniel felt something strange bloom in his chest, a mix of awe, gratitude, and something warmer, softer. He had expected judgment tonight. He had expected fear. Instead, he found understanding. I want to ask something, Daniel said hesitantly. Why protect me? Why not just let the security handle it? Solari's gaze turned outward again, thoughtful. In my culture, protection is earned. Trust is rare, and you have shown both courage and restraint. That is worth recognition. Even from a Valari, Daniel's heart thumped. No human had ever been recognized by a Valari before. Not for strength, not for bravery, not for anything. And yet here he was being acknowledged for simply being himself, for showing honesty, for not hiding his fear. Do humans often sleep on floors? Solari asked abruptly, breaking the silence. Her voice held no mockery, only curiosity. Daniel chuckled, a dry, tired sound. Not usually. Beds are better. But sometimes safety matters more than comfort. She considered this, then said softly, You are very small, human. Yet you carry more courage than many of my people I have trained for decades. The words struck Daniel harder than he expected. Courage, recognition, validation, emotions he had not felt in months, maybe years. He realized that in this quiet chamber, with a warrior watching over him not as an enemy, not as a superior, but as someone who chose to care, he felt seen. Truly seen. That night deepened. The station's hum grew softer, almost lullaby-like. Daniel finally allowed his eyes to close, feeling exhaustion pull him under. But even as he drifted, he felt a strange sense of security he had never known. Solari remained awake, her gaze fixed on the stars. She did not touch him, she did not speak further, yet her presence was a shield, a promise. a quiet acknowledgement that sometimes, even in a galaxy full of rules, danger, and cruelty, someone could choose to protect simply because they wanted to. And that night, Daniel Reyes learned something profound. Bravery is not always about fighting. Sometimes it is about staying. Sometimes it is about trusting that someone else will stand with you. For the first time in his life, he felt that humans so small, so fragile in the eyes of the stars, could belong in a galaxy that had always seemed too large, too cold, too dangerous. That night, under alien stars, with a Valari warrior watching over him, Daniel finally allowed himself to rest. Not just his body, but his heart. Because, for once, he was not alone. Morning came slowly, the soft glow of Carvet's corridors shifting from dim blue to pale gold. Daniel woke on the floor of Solari's chamber, his muscles stiff and his mind buzzing with both exhaustion and disbelief. Last night felt unreal, like a dream painted in silver and starlight. But now, the consequences of his accidental intrusion were waiting. He could feel it in the subtle hum of the station, in the tension rising like electricity through the air. The door opened without warning, and 2 guards entered. Daniel froze, heart hammering. He expected harsh words, perhaps even detention. But he did not expect Solari to rise, standing calmly between him and the Valari officers, as if she were a living barrier made of steel and authority. "He is my guest," she said firmly, her voice unwavering. The guards paused. Daniel's stomach twisted. "She said that, for me." "He is not registered," one of the guards replied. His tone clipped, mechanical, following the rules that governed Valari life without question. Solari's silver-lined arms crossed, and her gaze sharpened. "Then register him. I accept full responsibility." Daniel wanted to protest, to step forward and take the blame himself. "It's my fault," he began, but Solari's eyes stopped him. She did not look at him as one might look at a child or a subordinate. She looked at him with calm certainty, the kind of certainty that makes others question their own choices. "This is not your fault, human," she said. "You are unaware. I chose to protect you. That is all that matters." The guards exchanged uneasy glances. Daniel realized something extraordinary in all of Valari history. A warrior had never defended a human so openly, so willingly. He felt both fear and awe swell inside him. This simple, human-sized mistake entering the wrong room had somehow revealed a truth about courage that he had never seen in anyone before. Bravery was not always about strength. Sometimes it was about choice. "You may leave," Solari added softly, almost to him. Her words were gentle, but they carried a weight that made him pause. She was giving him permission, not telling him, not commanding him. Permission. The word felt strange, almost sacred. The guards hesitated, then withdrew. Daniel exhaled, relief washing over him like warm water. He felt the adrenaline drain from his body, leaving only a deep, steady pulse of gratitude and awe. He wanted to speak, to explain, but no words seemed worthy. Finally, he whispered, "Thank you." Solari only nodded, turning back to the window to watch the stars drift past. Daniel sat on the floor for a few more moments, realizing the depth of what had happened. Here, in a galaxy that often seemed indifferent to human fragility, someone had chosen to see him not as a weak human, not as a mistake, but as a being worthy of protection by the time he rose to leave. News of the incident had already begun to circulate through the station. Other humans would have panicked. Other species might have acted out of suspicion or fear. But the Valari who had been assigned to guard the hallways whispered to one another, hesitant, curious. Daniel could feel their surprise, their respect. They were seeing a human being defended not by law, but by choice, and it unsettled their rigid ideas about power and strength. When Daniel finally stood in the corridor outside Solari's room, he felt a strange shift inside himself. This was more than gratitude. It was understanding. Humans were small, yes. Fragile, yes. But perhaps that smallness could inspire courage in others, even warriors who had never known empathy and sailory. She returned to her post by the window, watching him leave. She knew that council would demand answers soon. There would be questions, arguments, perhaps even reprimands. But she felt no fear. She had chosen to act, and in doing so, she had seen something extraordinary. The quiet strength of a human who faced fear without hiding from it. Who stayed when leaving would have been easier. Daniel walked down the corridor slowly, the hum of the station echoing round him. He realized that for the first time, he was no longer just a fragile human in a galaxy of titans. He was someone who had been seen, someone whose smallness had inspired a choice in a warrior who could move stars with her authority. For a human, that was a kind of victory no weapon could grant. And somewhere, across the shimmering expanse of the station, Solari watched and understood the truth Daniel could not yet say aloud. Sometimes the universe measured courage not in battles fought or victories claimed, but in quiet moments of trust, compassion, and the choice to protect someone else. That morning, Daniel Reyes walked into a galaxy that had seemed impossibly large, cold and unforgiving, and realized, for the first time, that humanity might just belong here after all. After the events of that night, Daniel felt different. Walking through the station's corridors, he noticed things he had never seen before, the subtle shifts in light along the walls, the way alien species moved with quiet purpose, and the faint hum of the station that connected every room like a heartbeat. But most of all, he noticed how people, Valari, humans, and others reacted when they looked at him. They did not see just a human. They saw someone defended, someone trusted, someone whose smallness had sparked courage in a warrior. Solari appeared beside him, as silent as ever, her presence a shield of calm against the chaos of the station. She had insisted he accompanied her to the council chamber, not as a suspect, not as a trespasser, but as a witness of what had occurred. Daniel felt nervous. Humans were not treated equally in Valari politics. One wrong word could mean exile or worse. As they entered the chamber, the council's eyes fell on Daniel immediately. Large, imposing, multi-limbed Valari elders regarded him with suspicion. Whispers rippled across the room, a mixture of disbelief and curiosity. A human protected by a Valari warrior. Such a thing was nearly impossible, almost unheard of. Explain, the eldest demanded, his voice resonating with authority. Solari stepped forward first, her silver-lined arms crossed, her posture unyielding. This human entered my private chamber by accident, she said calmly. I chose to allow him to remain. I accept all responsibility for this decision. The council's murmurs grew louder. Daniel felt every eye upon him, expecting a mistake, expecting weakness. He wanted to shrink back, but Solari's gaze locked onto his. Stand tall, Daniel, it seemed to say. You are not small here. Daniel cleared his throat. I "Entered the wrong room," he said, voice steady despite the fear coiling in his stomach. "I did not mean to. I did not expect anything from her. I simply stayed. That is all." A silence fell over the chamber. The elders exchanged glances, some frowning, some thoughtful. Humans were rarely honest about mistakes. They hid their fear, lied to save pride. But here was a human, admitting fear and error without seeking favor or excuse. An elder, larger than the rest, spoke at last. "Why do humans inspire loyalty so quickly?" His voice was soft, but filled with weight. The question hung in the air, as if asking for an answer beyond words. Daniel paused. He could have lied, claimed luck, or deferred to Solari's wisdom. But something inside him compelled honesty, because, he said slowly, "We don't pretend to be invincible. We admit fear, and we stay anyway." The chamber fell silent again, longer this time. The elder studied him, and Daniel could see understanding dawning in his black, deep-set eyes. "Then perhaps," he said finally, "the galaxy needs more wrong doors." Daniel felt his chest tighten. That phrase, "wrong doors," code the night he had entered Solari's chamber. It was a reminder that mistakes, small as they seemed, could lead to recognition, understanding, and trust. A human, fragile and small, could open a path no warrior could predict. Solari's hand brushed briefly against his arm, subtle enough for the council not to notice, but enough to send warmth through him. It was a gesture that said, "You belong here. You have value." Walking out of the chamber later, Daniel realized something profound. Humans were not strongest in power or speed, not in weapons or sheer endurance. They were strongest in persistence, in empathy, in the courage to remain when leaving was easier. They could inspire influence and change minds with honesty and heart. Solari walked beside him, silent but steady, and for the first time Daniel understood what she had seen the night before. The galaxy measured strength in ways far beyond physical might. Bravery could exist in quiet moments, in small choices, and in acts of trust that no one else would notice. Daniel's heart swelled with quiet pride. He had been small, fragile, and human, and yet, in that chamber, in the eyes of a Valari warrior and a council of fearsome elders, he had stood. Not because he was powerful, but because he had been honest. And because he had stayed when fear begged him to leave. And in that, Daniel Reyes understood something no training could teach. Humanity's greatest strength was never in domination or battle. It was in staying true to oneself, in choosing courage, and in inspiring it in others, even across species, across galaxies, across unimaginable distances. That day, the council returned to their duties. The station resumed its hum, and Daniel walked beside Sut, knowing something extraordinary. Humans, small, fragile, honest, could stand among the stars and be recognized, not because they ruled or conquered, but because they dared to be human. And that recognition, Daniel realized, was more powerful than any weapon in the galaxy.